What is... I love that you come. Thank you so much for coming to tonight's podcast. If you're watching on the replay, I'll try to make this enjoyable on the replay as well. But those that are in the live chat, I say hello to you. This guy's cooking his roast, and he wants the two things revealed. I'm going to do that early on. Within the first 10 minutes of the video, the main topic will be revealed. We'll discuss it, all of that good stuff, and then we have some other things we're going to talk about as well. Dawn of all time, what is going on? And JJ says, hey, Justin, feels like it's been forever. That's right, it's been forever since I've had my normal podcast. I've been traveling, and I'm traveling again next week. We'll talk more about that at the end of the show. He's asking if we're going to have some more videos on the Retro World Show that I went to. Yes, I want to talk about it. I got like 2 or 3 videos planned. Probably going to just do live streams, and I'll talk about my entire experience, the cool people that I met, and, you know, I think you'll find the information fun. Anyway, so tonight we're going to be talking about the impossible titles that maybe, just maybe, Arcade1up could pull off other titles, right? That's kind of the idea, but there's 2 interesting things about these, what I'm calling the so-called impossible titles. We got one person that says, neither cab was impossible, it just come down to money, as always, and I think it's a really good point. But even that point that you're making, it's true. The fact that they did come out with it means it wasn't impossible, but we're calling it the impossible cabs because these are cabinets that we thought previously they couldn't do. But now that they have done it, what does that mean? That's what I like to talk about on this podcast. What do these things mean? If you're interested in that topic about home arcade, hit that like and subscribe button. We will be doing some giveaways, so stay tuned for that to hear more information about the giveaways and how you can take part of it. The short term is subscribe. Even if you're already subscribed, you can also enter the giveaways as well. Let's get into the topic. So the number one thing that I want to talk about is the 2 main things that are being kind of revealed, or you can kind of like 2 main areas that if you look closely, you'll find that they did something special. They did something special. So what makes it quote-unquote impossible? These 2 cabinets, Blitz and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the license. The actual license to pull off this cabinet, we thought, or I'll just say I thought, the license would be impossible. Why is that? So with the Blitz cabinet, the NFL cut all their ties to NFL Blitz years ago. This is not like another football game where, oh man, I'm losing track because I just remembered that next Sunday I'll be going to an NFL game, which is really exciting. With, you know, Michael B and B Kong hopefully is coming. I did buy him a ticket, but he doesn't know yet, so I got to talk to him about that. 19K Fox. It's going to be really fun. We're going to be in Chicago, and I don't know. I'm talking about football, and I was like, we're going to this football game. That's pretty cool. Anyway, the NFL wanted nothing to do with this game Blitz for decades, right? Like, but here it is. Here we are. We are in 2022. And Arcade1up was able to get this game back out to the market, officially licensed or sponsored by the NFL. And I think it's really good for both the players that are retired, you know, and Arcade1up. All of it is good. There's stools that are coming out, and even the stools are pretty exciting because I know there's going to be some people that have favorite football teams that they really want to get their special stool. And I think they're probably going to be expensive, but it is what it is. So NFL Blitz seemed to be impossible, but they were able to get the license. But there's more. This is another reason. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, of course, is another cabinet that a lot of people thought was just impossible, right? Again, Marvel and Capcom put together that particular game. There's going to be a lot of challenges for Arcade1up to have to, you know, overcome to be able to come out with that system again, and they did it, right? They were able to secure the license. They were able to get that game back on the market. I think they took some concessions on the Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I think it has to do with they wanted to do it this year. I think if they would have done it in a few years, I'm guessing the next year model of the Arcade1up cabinet would have been a little bit different than this year's model. And so this one leaned a little bit more towards that midway style shaped cabinet, and that's what we get out of this Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet. So the fact that they were able to pull off these licenses, and of course in the chat people are talking about Nintendo, and of course the big question is Nintendo something that they possibly could do as well? Let's see, Clax is saying the Bears are playing the 49ers, and I'm a 49ers fan, and if B. Kong can't go, I'll go instead. That's right. That's the game that we're going to. Yeah, Garage Gamer says, maybe people buying stools for $160 is possible. Wow, it's a good tie-in. Very good. But, of course, I want to hear what you guys think in the chat. What else is impossible, right? What other licenses besides Nintendo? Because Nintendo's the obvious one. So I'm going to throw this slide up just for a second, and it's going to take a moment for, those in the chat to see this. I want to hear some comments in the chat about your thoughts about what else is impossible for Arcade1up to get that you would really like. I'm talking about cabinet, a license that you would really like. Those that are listening on their commute, give me a second, and I'm going to read some of these chats from other people. So here we go. We got some coming in. Paul with his joke. Let's see. Devin says Taito and Konami Legacy cabs would be something good. And then we have Qbert is apparently impossible from Paul. Yeah, it's a really good point. That's something that a lot of people have been requesting, and they say they could do Qbert, but there's challenges with the joystick or just lack of interest by the company employees on the title. Maybe we'll see it one day. See, Don of All Time, he says the Whopper was impossible. Dang, but it tastes good. So there we go. Don of Time, he's taking this impossible. He's an impossible Whopper. There we go. Dragon Gamer with Primal Rage. He feels that Primal Rage would be something that he would love for Arcade1up to get. Here we go. Bill's Retro Gaming Show MK4 is impossible because John D hates it. That's right. John D from Arcade1up. I guess he just doesn't like Mortal Kombat. I don't know. JJ saying Qbert and Robotron apparently are impossible. Donkey Kong, Sega Racing titles like Sega Rally, VR Racing, Daytona USA. I want to talk about Daytona USA as well. Got some other people, Mortal Kombat 4. Revolution X, shooter game. I think the licenses with Aerosmith makes it impossible. That would have been really good if we could have got, and maybe that's the finances, right? Terminator 2 was a cabinet that only had one game. The obvious second game on that would have been Revolution X, but they would have had to, I think probably Aerosmith, they could probably secure that deal. I mean, John D's making phone calls and making things that were impossible happen. I just think the finances didn't work out. And then of course Pitbull with Nintendo, never, not a chance. So maybe Nintendo is actually impossible. Chris P talking about Crazy Taxi. The reason Crazy Taxi with the music license. That's right. So, fun game, but how would Arcade1up make a title that has so iconic music to it that are from rock bands, right? And then be able to relicense those games? Is that impossible? Chuck Wilson says Punch-Out's impossible. Who Needs Normal says Donkey Kong is one that will absolutely not happen. So we got some others in here. Dance Dance Revolution, another one. All right, guys, so that's good. I'm going to go on to the second piece here. But before we do that, I want to let everyone know there's a link in the description to join a giveaway. And here it is. You can, let's see, I got to go over here now. 1 second. You could win an Arcade1up Pro. That's right, the Street Fighter 2 Arcade1up Pro, I believe, will be coming out next year. And you can click that link below. It doesn't matter if you subscribe, you've already subscribed to the channel, or you want to subscribe, or you're new and you're subscribing now. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and then click that button to enter to win the giveaway, which will happen. We're collecting people now, which will happen probably sometime next year. We got a few more months away. And that will be a lot of fun. We'll do that giveaway. When that cabinet comes out, someone's going to get it without having to pay for it. That's going to be really cool. A couple other titles we have on the list. Guitar Hero. Man, the Retro World Expo that I went to last weekend, I played some Rock Band 4. I never played Rock Band 4. I played Rock Band 1 and Rock Band 2 and Guitar Hero and Guitar Hero 2, but I never got to play the Rock Band 4, and man, I had a lot of fun. I played it 2 or 3 times, like probably put in an hour or two into Rock Band at an expo. That was kind of interesting. So let's talk about this second piece. I think is very interesting. This is the part of the podcast that I'm really looking forward to because I get to nerd out. The technology, the tech that they did in Blitz and Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is exciting, okay? And we're going to have opportunities for people in the chat to call out some things that they find important with the technology, or maybe games that this technology could unlock. But before we do that, we got a super chat, and he says, Arkanoid needs to happen. Now, that's a game I think we'll probably see from Arcade1up. Maybe we'll see that on like a legacy cabinet. But yeah, that needs to happen. Thanks for the super chat. I really appreciate that. So the technology on these cabinets point towards a clue that we might see some amazing arcade titles in the future, because what is Blitz based on? And what about Marvel vs. Capcom 2? Now, I don't have a Blitz cabinet, and I don't have a Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but I did do a review on this Yoga Flame edition behind here, and it is one of the newer technologies, and I think they're using either the same technology in Blitz and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or very, very close chipset. So I'm going to talk about it just for a second. We don't nerd out like crazy, but I'm going to put it in simple terms so you can understand, reach a wide audience. So here's the idea. Technology. This is what I found from the research of the Yoga Flame edition. It's using the Mediatek M28186. So what's the key things that you want to take away from this? The clock speed on this is 2 gigahertz. This is the most powerful Arcade1up PCB that they have ever released up to this point, to my knowledge. It looks like it's running 8 gigabytes of RAM DDR4. Now, the actual cores that it's using, the quad core, is the Cortex A53, which is used on a lot of chipsets. There are higher-end Cortexes that are faster, but it's still really good. It's still a very powerful unit. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's look at Blitz for a second. So Blitz, let's talk about this. Blitz are games that came out in the late 90s. We're not talking about 1993, 94 games. We're talking about late 90s games, right? It's NFL Blitz, NFL Blitz 99, and NFL Blitz 2000 Gold Edition. Now, there's something special there's two things special in the technology for Blitz that I want to talk about. One is the 49-way joystick, the fact that they're recreating that I'm sure it's cheap for them to do. They're not paying $200 per joystick, and there's going to be some compromises. Hopefully, when we get it, we'll like it as much as the Star Wars Yoke, where that was something inexpensive for the company to manufacture. They spent a lot of time on tooling and getting that technology so it can be, it can operate at scale, right? But the other thing that's really cool is this game is a port, right? So this is an Android port, and I'm kind of back. I think I've done a 180 on this. At first, I kind of scoffed at them and saying Arcade1up is calling it the Blitz is this HD version of Blitz, and get out of here with your HD version. Sure, your 960p, which is technically bigger than 720p, and 720 is where HD is. Sure, I get that. But you're probably upscaling it. But then I start thinking about this is a port. This is a port. And then I started thinking these games in the 90s are probably not sprites. These are polygons or some type of instructions to the graphics card to draw lines of resolution, not take a picture from an asset, and put it on the screen. So maybe this is an HD port where there's actually more lines of resolution drawn for the characters that are running across the screen. I don't know for sure, but I'm kind of buying into it now. I like this HD port technology that they're doing. What other games do you think they could port over where they have the source code? That would be an interesting topic. I don't have any offhand that I know, but the fact that they're working with software developers to take the original source code from games and port it over to the platform that they run on with no emulation. It's like there's no emulation here. There's probably going to be some level of lag. When you played these arcade games back in the day, they were on a CRT, which we would consider no lag because that was the basis of these original games. And the LCD is going to introduce at least one frame. And maybe the emulation, or I guess it's not emulation, I should just say the operating system in which the PCB is running these games on could introduce some type of latency that's different than the original. Sure. But it's really cool that they did this with the technology. So that's what's really cool about Blitz. But I have more to share. I got more slides here. Let's go to the next one. What about the fact that this is a game? This was not Model 3. This is Naomi. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Naomi came after Model 3. And Arcade1up hasn't released any Model 3 games. Now, I would assume that it's not the case that every architecture is, every architecture for an arcade system is going to be different. It's not like simple as Nintendo 8-bit and then 16-bit and then Nintendo 64, and they're just, always going higher in technology. Naomi is different from Model 3. Is Naomi better than Model 3? Probably. But can you emulate Model 3? Do you know? If you can emulate Naomi, can you also emulate Model 3? So Model 3 came out before Naomi. But here's the point, right? So the fact that they did almost this leapfrog across other Sega platforms, and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I assume is running on an emulator on that chipset that we talked about before, the 2 gigahertz processor. And what other games could they do now, right, with this type of technology? Where's Django? He's talking about it. He says, Naomi emulation is nearly perfect. Model 2 and Model 3 emulation hasn't been worked on in years and not in great state. This is really cool information. I was trying to figure this out, and this was my assumption, right, that not all, arcade systems, are created equal, and it's just this evolution, right? But look at the other games that are on the list. The game that we talked about before, see? Crazy Taxi, right? Crazy Taxi is in the list of games that came out around the same time as Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So my question is, if I was asking a question to Arcade1up, it would be, okay, so you can do Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Does that mean you could do House of the Dead 2? Does that mean you could do Dead or Alive 2? Does that mean you could do Crazy Taxi? And that's right, Ralph is jumping the gun. He says, Justin, am I wrong? But isn't Star Wars Trilogy running under Model 3? And here we go. That's where I'm going. Bam, Model 3. Now, as we just discussed, they probably need to spend the money to do a Model 3 emulation at the commercial level. But wouldn't you say that at least the platform in which they're running on is probably capable of doing it if they spent the time and money on unlocking Model 3? And that would open up a ton of things, right? A ton of opportunity for Arcade1up to release additional cabinets. You basically unlock Model 2, Model 3. And that's what I'm excited about. Now, this particular cabinet, this is the tough one for me because I did buy one. I bought a full-size Star Wars Trilogy. I should get it in the next few weeks. It's being delivered, but the shipping on it is through a company that I'm very... If it takes time, it's fine, right? It's only $200 for the shipping, and so that's kind of the deal that I have. So the next question is, if they could do Naomi Model 2, Model 3 in the near future, what cab would you want in that era? So we have the Model 3 of the Star Wars. I was also thinking the other big title that I think would be really exciting would be a Model 2 Daytona USA. But the real question is, what would you want? Is there games in the Naomi series of platforms that you get excited about the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 because you're thinking, hey, if they can do Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Naomi, what if they do this other arcade port, right? What if they do this other arcade game? Is that something that you would be interested in? So let's take a look at the chat and see what you guys have to say about that. When it comes to the technology, what do you think Arcade1up has been holding back? Not because of the license, but because of the technology, right? The technology, now that we know that they can do something at that Dreamcast, that Naomi level of technology, what type of games do you think would be really exciting for Arcade1up to release? And Goofy Foot says he thinks they should come out with ladders. Ladders would be great. Ladders would be amazing, and that's exactly what they need to come out with. Biggie D says he wants the Virtual Fighter. Let me back up a little bit in the chat, make sure everyone has an opportunity. There were some chats that went by. Let's see. Alex with the Vector Games Red Baron Trail Gunner Battlezone. Though, honestly, I saw good emulation on Code Mystics on their other iPad. So that's interesting. Bringing in Code Mystics again to bring in some more games. See, wasn't Blitz already an HD remake on PC? Well, I do know what I heard was at least the original Blitz, but then I think Blitz 2, they had a hard time tracking down the source code, but they were able to get it. The point is the company has been refining Blitz over the years. You know, early on when they first came out, the software developers were always pushing the envelope, even with NBA Jam. There's multiple versions of NBA Jam. You can find ROMs out there. And so they kept on doing modifications, and they kind of like crossed the line, you know, like put Mortal Kombat characters in NBA Jam. And they're like, no, you can't do that, you know. So the developers had to retool, you know, had to go in there and change the game, make different versions of it. And then, of course, what's great is when you have that source code, you can do more ports to other systems. Otherwise, you know, you're dealing with the compiled ROM, and you have to do an emulator. I had heard a story of. There's actually a lot of companies that don't have the source code for a lot of games, but some of the employees stole the source code of these really big popular games. The rumor that I heard is that Aladdin and The Lion King for the Sega Genesis, the source code was fully lost on those games, but some developer had a copy of it, which is crazy. Like, were they on floppy or something like that? That was back in the day. There was no thumb drives back then, right? And so later he, you know, gave the source code back to a team of people that are trying to preserve games, and then that got into the hands of some people that were doing ports, and some of the new Switch games that came out are actually like from that original source code that the company was able to reacquire. I think those are cool, pretty cool stories, you know. Garage Gamer with, but do they have the source code for the Night Trap? That's the real question. Let's see. So we covered that. Let's see, Papa Brad's Gaming, he's saying, SNAISTAR is a great 49-way stick arcade. That is another great game Zohar knows nothing about. Woo! Shots fired. There we go. Let's see. Any hardware that can do, this is a Bish Salad says, any hardware that can do Naomi should be able to do Model 3. I think in general that's true, but as we discussed, at least open source emulation for Model 2 and Model 3 is not perfect. I remember B talking about that with Star Wars. He says he's running it on a PC, and it's pretty good, but it's not perfect. And so I think it takes a little bit more hardware when emulation doesn't have different parts of the games or layers optimized, right? And so maybe that's going to be a challenge for Arcade1up, is some of the other, there's not a lot of knowledge out there for some of these layers of emulation. Let's see. No, I do not believe that current hardware, including Blitz, can do Model 3. Well, so we got some people that disagree, and that's definitely okay to disagree. So does it need a new chipset? I mean, we're already at 2 gigahertz. Like maybe we need a higher. But see, that's the thing. Like, this is what I heard from Arcade1up. This is what they said. So let's say they're gonna sell 50,000 cabinets that require a higher end chip. Well, how much will it cost them to acquire 50,000 higher end chips, right? And so could it be that it costs them $10 more? Well, $10 more would be $500,000, right? So now they're buying all these chips. It's going to cost them $500,000, right? But they could hire a team of software developers, a company, and pay them $250,000, and they can build a commercial emulation to that platform that can run on the hardware they already have. And so those are investments that I've heard the company will put in, which I really like, right? So you're either giving the money to buy ICs and chips, and that's a distribution of fund. That's interesting. But I really like the idea of Arcade1up, like basically taking these projects, and which cost millions of dollars to fund, whether it's with hardware or research, product development, whatever, and funneling that into companies that are paying developers to retain the knowledge of how these systems work and rebuild it. I love that idea. Like companies like Code Mystics or To Do Gaming, Digital Eclipse, Other Ocean, these companies staying in business because they're being funded by Arcade1up, that's great. That's awesome. I think that's a good thing. So anytime there's an opportunity for Arcade1up to pay developers to port over that technology and it's cheaper, that's win-win, I think. That's just win-win. I believe there was a super chat. I got to make sure I grab it. Sometimes I wait too long. Here we go. Ezekiel, the Chicago Retro Ranger, he says, "What's up, console kits? Did you get the trilogy yet? I did not get the Star Wars trilogy arcade just yet." And he's correcting it right here, Star Wars trilogy. I was thinking about calling the guy probably like Tuesday. I know tomorrow's a holiday. Calling him on Tuesday. Appreciate the donation, I really do. And hopefully we'll get an update on that soon. And I'm going to get some help from B-Kong. He was telling me that he can help me with that joystick. That's the only thing that's wrong with that Star Wars. Pretty excited about that. I think I'm going to put that in my office. A lot of my arcades, full-size arcades, are in my garage. But I'm thinking about starting to move them either into the basement. Well, I got a handful in the basement here. There's three in the basement, and there's many more in the garage. But my office, I'm going to start rearranging things, and I can put it in there. Let's see. Chris says, anytime someone asks John D about certain games, he always seems to say, "Yeah, but what games would you put on it?" Or if you have the license for it, but rarely says they don't have the tech to do it. That's an interesting point. What you're implying is sometimes the challenge is not necessarily the license, not necessarily the technology, but the challenge is coming up with a good set of games. And we're continuing, Arcade1up continues to come out with a different set of games. Like for a while there was just 3 games and 4 games, but now they're pushing like 14 games. It's probably next year's going to be 16 games. I think it should be 24 games, But as they do that, then it becomes even more of a challenge because the more games you have, there's more likelihood you're going to put games on there that's going to like not work well with the control panel, which I don't really like also. So finding that balance is definitely really important. All right. So now what I'd like to do, now we talked about, let's see if there's anything else I'd like to do, is talk about, first I'll talk about Chicago. So Chicago is a trip that is coming up this Thursday for me. I'll be going to Chicago. iArcade has got this Game and Brew, exciting things going on there. On Friday, a group of us, so if you're in the Chicago area, come hang out with us. So next Friday, right? So that's, when is that? Let me pull up the calendar. So next Friday, the 9th, a whole bunch of us are going to be at Galloping Ghost, basically all day. Like all day at Galloping Ghost. And then I think we're going to hit the football game on Sunday. The iArcade party is on the 10th. And so, so a group of us are going there, and that's pretty exciting. I'm trying to get my head back into this expo that I went to. I think I want to do that on a separate stream. Talk about that on a separate stream because there was just so many people that I met. I'll give you the summary of it, though. Like, I went there, and maybe if you were to come to me and you would say, "Hey, what was the expo like? What did you see there?" My answer is not going to be, "I saw this and that." It's who I saw. It's who I hung out with. It's who I got to meet. I'll give you a little highlight of it. Now, although I didn't get a chance to actually talk to a gaming historian, I did hang out near him, I guess. And I went to his panel, which was just fantastic. Seeing the gaming historian kind of do his thing live. I like live content, and he was kind of going through his historian piece. He basically revealed what his next big video is and what he's researching on, and it was really exciting. Another set of people that I got to see was Glenn and Bill. That's right. Those in the chat probably familiar with Glenn and Bill. They were fun. We got to have dinner with them. And that was the other thing. I had dinner with several set of people. So Steve from Retrotech, which is probably one of the last great technicians for CRTs, was there. We've hung out before, and I got to catch up with him, and he's got a podcast, and I'll be going on his podcast, I think, next week, so that'll be fun. We talked a lot about CRTs and some of the projects that are coming out, just insane stuff. Like, what I think is really exciting is, like, while Arcade1up is coming out with all these newer technologies, what I'm trying to say is Arcade1up takes games and puts them on LCD. Well, there's another group of people who are trying to make the retro gaming really exciting on a CRT. But there's another set of people that are actually reaching out to the companies that make the LCD panels and explain to them how to make them better. To the point where eventually we're not going to have these CRTs anymore. But if they can work on 3 things, and it's motion blur, lag, and what was the other one? Scan lines. If you can work on those 3 things and do them well, an LCD is great. If you have a ton of lag on an LCD, it's not good. If you have a ton of motion blur, you're going to have a bad experience. If you have variable lag, it's not going to be good. And people love scan lines, right? And so they're working with the companies to remove the motion blur, and they're actually able to convince some of the manufacturers that there really is a problem. That's step 1. That's amazing. They announced that, kind of talked about that. RetroRGB panel. Really, really cool. There's this YouTuber called Shank Mod. Dude was just awesome. Got to hang out with him and talk to him, and he was just... I mean, we were talking about Arcade1up LVDS versus HDMI, and he, like, knows the spec in and out of all of that. He's like, you know you can convert the LVDS on an Arcade1up to HDMI with resistors. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, don't you know the technology between the two? And it's like, the only difference is actually voltage. So he's like, the geek worm is just a chip with a whole bunch of resistors in it for all the lines of HDMI. I was just, like, blown away. He's like, it's a standard, right? That's why. Anyway, so that was kind of interesting conversations, and he's familiar with that because Shank Mods does. He's the guy that does like I'll show you. I'll share some screens so you can know who I'm talking about a little bit. He has some amazing content when it comes to consoleizing, basically Game Boy-izing. I don't know what you're like taking a Wii and turning it into a Game Boy, right? Let me pull it up here so you guys know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Let me pull this up. Anyway, really smart, kind of a younger guy. Let's see. Here, I'm going to share my screen and then kind of show you what this is all about. Let me do it this way. This will take just a second. All right. Yeah, so Shank Mod, I got to reach out to this guy a little bit more, get his contact information, because I didn't while I was there. So he has all of these videos, right, of, like, doing these mods. Like, check this out. Like, Shank Mods, he's, like, taking this, I made a handheld Virtual Boy, the real one, right? Have you guys seen this? Like, this guy's, look, just to give you an idea of how great quality his content is 361 subscribers and 8 videos. Like, only 8 videos. Like, just really, really techie guy, and his content is very amazing. He's going through the entire process of him turning a Virtual Boy into, like, a handheld. He's done that with a handful of other things. So, but the guy's legit. Like, seriously, 100% legit. I was talking tech with him, and he's just, like, over my head, right? Anyway, so it was really cool hanging out with him. There was another project that they were talking about that was really exciting, and that is getting high-definition resolution on a CRT. And basically, there's this project, I think it's called OpenCRT, and what they're doing, at least I'll repeat what I was told. I haven't verified this myself. I'm having, like, a hard time actually trying to find this information. But anyway, so the OpenCRT project is evidently a replaced chassis on a CRT, the actual circuit board that's driving the beam to draw lines. That guy, they're like, it only draws 480 lines. So think of the original arcades, like, right? So this Street Fighter cabinet, you know, is probably only drawing like 300 lines of resolutions or 400 lines of resolution. What if it just did, like, you know, 1400? That could work. And so they found out, like, yeah, they could totally do that. You can totally, with the right parts, drive high definition video into a CRT. So why not? So the interesting thing that I found about the entire project, Retro World, there's a lot of technical people that I was hanging out with. At the same time, while there's companies that are trying to increase quality for the LCDs, there's another set of people that are trying to make LCDs higher quality as well. And it's not really a competition. It's just like, let's make all the things better possibly can, so you can have like the greatest possible experience with retro gaming. And I think that's really cool. So that's what that's kind of like the high level summary. But some great people that were there that I got to hang out with. My Life in Gaming, big YouTubers that make a lot of amazing content for retro gaming. But we were all talking about cameras and like editing, and that was a lot of fun. Got to meet up with RetroRGB Bob. He makes a lot of retro content, and always like to help and support him. There's a lot of people that came. There's this guy, Ronnie from Lebanon, that was just absolutely amazing to hang out with. This guy used to write articles for RetroRGB, or does, and then what he ended up doing during the pandemic, he lost his job. But then because he's writing all these gaming technology articles on the internet, he was able to apply for jobs. He was able to apply for jobs as a tech writer, and he got 10 offers. Just what a wonderful story, where a guy who was in kind of the retro gaming space as a hobby, but he's been writing articles for RetroRGB for years, and then that talent grew enough that the moment he lost his job during the pandemic, he was able to apply as a tech writer for a couple corporations. 10 offers. He's doing good. Ronnie came out, and he was at the Retro Gaming Expo. There was a couple people from Mexico, Artemio, who makes the 240p test suite. He was there. That was really exciting to hang out with him. He's just wealth of knowledge that it comes to these retro gaming, wealth of knowledge that it comes to what it takes to drive an arcade, how to rebuild arcades, how to take a Naomi board and try to repair it. So he told a lot of stories on it. So a lot of fun stuff. Getting to meet people and having dinner with people. There was this guy that I hung out with, Displaced Gamer. He's a content creator, tech content creator. I kept on running into him, and we kept on chatting up forever, and I felt like he was like a long lost brother or something like that. So Ralph Thomas, he says, Justin, I wish I knew the Retro Expo was going on. I live in Connecticut. Sorry, I missed you guys. Yeah, man, that would have been really cool. There was also Cody. We met up with this guy. Maybe he's in the chat. I don't know. He watches the shows. He was there. Big fan of home arcade. He went to a lot of the same expos that we went to, a lot of the panels, and he was asking a couple Arcade1up questions. And he gave me a present. I don't have it with me, but I'll show it on another show. It's a shot glass that says aspect ratios. It was just amazing to get a present from a fan. A shot glass. If you've been following this show for a while, aspect ratios is something that anytime I talk about, B typically will take a shot. Cody caught up on that, and then he gave me that as a present. Cody, if you're out there, that was fantastic. I really, really appreciate it. I brought it home, showed my wife. She immediately got the joke. She laughed. She thought it was funny as well. Let's see. Let's see what you guys want to talk about in the chat. So that's my show, right? So now I'd like to hand the show over to you guys and add a question mark at the bottom of your comment, and let's talk. Let's talk freely and openly for the next 20 minutes or so. We'll cap this off at 1 hour of a podcast, and I'd love to hear what you guys want to talk about. Biggie D wants to talk about deals. I think you did some videos recently on deals. Biggie D's covering some deals. That's what the D stands for. It's Biggie Deals Arcade, right? Anyway, any other comments? Let's see. So the deals that are exciting, I think one of the latest deals that's really interesting from Arcade1up is that Walmart evidently is now selling the Yoga Flame Edition. Have you guys seen this? The Yoga Flame Edition is going to be sold without a riser. I have so many questions about this, right? So how much is it going to be? I don't know if anyone got the question. What's going on? What's going on, Kong? I just realized I didn't share out my invite. If anyone wants to come and hang out for the tail end of the show, please do so. I'll bring that in our group chat if anyone wants to join. Anyway, so let's see. We got a question here. JJ says, how familiar are with pairing controllers to Batocera or AtGames, CoinOps, console systems, Justin? Yeah, I don't have, let's see. I have Batocera, and right now I'm using a USB controller, and I was about to look into that, actually. So I'll get back to you. I have like an 8-bit Do controller, or an 8-bit Do controller, and that's one that I was like, trying to get connected on the Batocera. Am I saying that right? The Batocera. It comes with AtGames and CoinOps. I think very specifically, AtGames is more akin to, is it the Xbox controller technology, right? So I think I can't remember off the top of my head. It has an X in it, so if the technology for controllers has an X in it, that's the USB technology I think AtGames favors. So if you have some type of adapter, anyone else in the chat, if you know what I'm talking about and can clarify, please call that out. And call that out and I'll read it. Let's see. So Walmart has Tron for $4.99. That's one of the deals that's available right now. Recently, I had a video on deals, and it was the biggest thing that I think some people were doing is if you go to RC Willie, that's like the key thing. Go to RC Willie, see what deals they have available, and see if you can get Best Buy to match it. So RC Willie is not available in every region. But Best Buy will often match them. Sometimes you can do it right from the chat. This is what I've been told. I haven't done it, but I've told a lot of people this, and they've responded it worked. You can go to bestbuy.com, and you can chat with an agent. You can literally give them a link to the discount in RC Willie. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, RC Willie's not available in your area. What I've been told is if that happens, just disconnect from the call and just go right back into the chat on someone else, and they'll probably give you the deal. So sharing that, they have like a little bit extra, like T2 was like $369 instead of $399. So more people are picking up that. I think Big Blue was also popular this week of a cabinet. X-Men 4-player, that's a cabinet that I did pick up. I'm excited about that. I did some more cleaning in my basement, so I'm able to get more cabinets. I really got to get organized. I have a couch and a chair down here that has no place, and I get rid of that. I could get more cabinets. I'm going to try to keep it a mix of full-size cabinets and Arcade1up cabinets as well. I think I'm going to put, I got a couple different ideas. I'm like, I got to be very selective, definitely on the full-size cabinets that I get. Anyway, I still got to map that out. I got to map that out. Let's see what other. I think those are the prime deals that I think were pretty exciting. Ridge Racer was I think the last one. For deals lately. If anyone knows any other deals in the chat, call them out and I'll read them. Let's see. Yeah, no problem, man. I've seen your content. It's very good. Continue growing, man. Your videos are really good. Let's see. Thoughts on the RetroRGB Kickstarter failure? Yeah, that's a tough one. I wonder sometimes. I have this boss that does this. Like he makes goals really high. And I don't know if that's what the Kickstarter did for RetroRGB. Definitely there being home arcade. Like the RetroRGB, for those of you that don't know about the RetroRGB, it's a Kickstarter that ended up failing. It was a pretty cool product. I did get to review it, and I thought it was really nice. It was a really, really cool system. Wait, we're talking about RetroRGB? We're talking about, let's see. Yeah. Was it called the RetroRGB? Now I can't even remember. Yeah, this is the RetroRGB. Is that right? RevoCade. This is the RevoCade. Okay. So they ended it, and I'm gonna share the screen so we can talk about it here. So the RevoCade, they only got $20,000 in funding, but their goal was to get $200,000, and that would give them enough to be able to, fund this project. Now, what's really cool about it, for those of you are familiar in the home arcade space, there's Mason, who I just went on a trip with to Retro World. That's what I was talking about. I was with Mason Conrad. He's a young guy. He's like 24 years old, but he's like very much like, here, let me show you. Like Papa Brad, he's in the chat right now. See that logo? Mason Conrad made that logo. He's a graphics designer, but he's also a really cool guy. We've been friends for a couple of years. I think since like 2020, early 2020 is when we first met. First started. So he worked on this project. He was the graphic designer. And so him and another guy worked on a lot of these visuals that you're seeing right here. So he worked on the logo. He worked on like all this motion stuff. And I think they hired another company to do some of this as well. So he didn't exclusively do it. But then he did the logo. And so by chance, it was pure coincidence. It's like I didn't know he was working on the design. And then someone else I reached out to the owner and was like, hey, I would love to get your unit. I'd try it out. I'd ship it back. And he's like, oh, that's a really cool idea. I like the idea of, I'll send the cabinet to you and then you can send it to the next guy. I'm like, okay. So I did a video. Richard Ralph did a video. I think Mad Little Pixel did a video. And so some of these are like all spotlighted here. And the really cool thing about this project was, what was shown here was a 1x1 screen. And inside it was like a Raspberry Pi or Raspberry Pi-like unit. And it's a clever design. It's a design where you can swap out the controls. And, there's a joystick and buttons, and there's like a spinner. There's all these, and then there's a steering wheel. I think that's Retro Ralph's picture right there. And so the group of us, we helped out as we could. We just got review units. There's no exchange in money or anything. At least I didn't get any money on it. I don't think there was no money with Ralph or Mad Little Pixel as well. I think the only one making money was probably Mason Conrad because he's a freelance graphics designer. That's what he does. And so I got it. I tested it out. It was nice. It was really cool. But getting into this space with the big names, even Unico was able to build up their name pretty well with the license. I think that goes pretty far. And so, and then their name Retro Dim Sum, I think was a really cool name. That's a great name for a company. Why it failed, I don't know. Some people say it was the price. I've heard that. When you compare these units to other cabinets out there, like if you take a look at it, if you think about it, right? So what are we talking about? We have these 3-4 different companies that are in the home arcade space that are commercial. You can buy their products on Amazon. Now, the iArcade did start as a Kickstarter, but here's the thing. Like, the Arcade1up, the AtGames, the iArcade, the Unico, you buy it, it comes with everything you need to be able to play. And I wonder if that can take you really far. Because there's a set of people out there that they know how to hack. They know how to mod. They have all these games already. They're playing it on their television with a Pi or some video game system, a computer, whatever. So when they're buying a product, it has to give them something. And what this Revocade did, it gave them controls, and that was something unique. But I guess evidently it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. I wonder if some people were nervous, like the average Joe that was like, well, I don't know how to load a Pi, so what am I going to do with this Revocade the first time I get it and turn it on? It's going to have a blank operating system, because clearly you can't have a Kickstarter that sells a whole bunch of games preloaded with ROMs. And so that's probably a downside. Now, could the company have succeeded if they got licensed? I don't know, maybe, But even AtGames, it comes with a whole bunch of games already on it, and iArcade comes with like 11 games on it, and then you can buy more games. I'm just comparing the difference. So that's my thought on that unit. It's unfortunate. I hope the guy does well. He seemed like a really nice guy. I watched his videos, and I chatted with him on Twitter DM, and he seemed really cool. And he was very receptive to some of the ideas that I shared with him. And he was always appreciative. He's very humble and nice. And I think he lives in China and moved to LA for this project. So he put a lot of money out on trying to get this project up and going. Really hope that he does something in the future, because he's really smart. He had some really cool ideas, and maybe he just needs to pivot on these ideas. And startups fail. Like, I worked for a startup that failed, and I learned a lot from that project. It was successful in a way. We did sell the company, and we made some money, but we didn't reach our goals. We were trying to sell for $1 billion, and we sold for $250 million or so. So in a way, it was a failure because we didn't reach our goals. But you learned from it. I learned a ton from it. So hopefully he does the same and then pivots and finds something new to work on. Well, that was a great topic. I really appreciate it. If anyone has another one like that, I really enjoyed it. Let me see if I can go back up to the chat right around where I left off. See if there's anything else. Let's see. Let's see. You can overcome polycalculation to some point. Okay. Polycalculation, but throwing more clock cycles at the problem, but it would be more effective to include 3D processor, Model 3 board, and 2 real 3D Pro chips on it. I see. Bish Salad, I like you. You're speaking some technical stuff. I really appreciate it. So this comment's pretty good. What he's talking about is, this is like hardware acceleration type stuff. Like if you have a CPU, that's what he refers to as clock cycles, you can have it do the mathematical calculations necessary to be able to render some polygraphics. But what a lot of these boards did, and he's implying that Model 3 and Model 2 did, they had what's called a real 3D Pro chip, and that's what did all that excessive work so that it would free up the CPU. So when you're doing emulation, if you have a higher end CPU, you can have it manage that work. What would be really cool is through emulation sometimes, if they can be optimized software, it can emulate those hardware accelerations. It's not impossible to do that. I'm sure it's very, very difficult when you don't have that hardware acceleration to do that work for you. With higher end chips, you can also get higher end graphics chips on these single board computers, and you can have that kind of do the mathematical calculation as well, and that can become your hardware acceleration. At least that's the way I understand it. I could be wrong. Let's see. Clax29 says, in Chicago, you might be able to take a tour of Raw Thrills. Got to put that on the list. B, do you hear that? Raw Thrills. You hear that? I know that we asked about something else and it wasn't going to happen. I think we wanted to tour Stern, but they said fly a kite. BOE for life. I hear KI plays best in CRT mode. There you go. See, but here's the thing. What we were talking about before about CRT versus LCD. If you have an LCD, this is the coolest thing that I heard recently is there's this thing called the RetroTink 5X. And what it does is it scales up video, but now they're scaling up to 1440p, and now they're tricking televisions to go into HDR mode. And when they go into HDR mode, they can get a higher level of contrast, and they can actually simulate CRT to the CRT scan lines to the point where it looks amazing. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but I've seen pictures of it. And one thing that I'm planning on seeing with my own eyes very soon is Mr. Kongzarus. What's going on?
What's going on, man?
I realized I don't have. Are you there? Are you there? I had my audio off, so I couldn't hear you.
Oh, no worries. No, you sound good. There's a slight little echo in the background. I don't know if that's me or you. But
can you hear an echo right now?
Just when I'm talking a little bit in your background. So I don't know if that's audio through. But thanks for having me on. I know it's just the last couple minutes of your show. I'm just excited to see you in 4 days, man.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be really cool. So
yeah.
Now, someone in the chat was just talking about Raw Thrills. Is that a possibility? I mean, you're basically have become the mom of the. Wait, is that? I don't know. Is that a negative thing to say? But we're doing this trip, but you're managing the spreadsheet.
Is Raw Thrills in Chicago? Is that another thing that people were saying that's located there? I've been Googling the heck out of places to go, and so I have a master list of barcades and other arcade-related places that I feel like are good fits. The problem is time, location, and then managing not only our small group, but there's other people that are going to be there. So I think it's going to be a fun time, but most people are probably going to be doing their own thing. There's just going to be a few times where I think people will be able to get up and meet together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you nailed it, man. Completely nailed it. You're here's our problem. We're time, availability, and
yep.
Different people are going to want to do different things. But I think there's a set of us that are we're going to hang out. And I'm gonna ask you on the spot. I did buy tickets to the game. Are you in?
Yeah,
Okay.
obviously, I'm in. I'm in.
All
That's
right.
fun.
All right. So I think it was 290 or something like that is what it ended up being per person, but
Yeah,
it'll be
for sure.
fun. Like how often do you get to go to a football game, right?
I agree. Yeah, I'm not buying NFL Blitz, but I'll have my own set of opportunities to enjoy NFL very, very soon with a bunch of other home arcade content creators. And we don't even have to play online with each other. We'll be there in person.
That's right.
Can we like pretend to like tailgate ahead of time and just buy a football and just be like, hey,
We
we'll
could
do
do
late
that.
hits on each other.
That's right. Just because the game doesn't have late
Yeah.
hits, doesn't mean we can't have late hits. What I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, yeah, that's fun.
So out of the trip that we have next week, what do you think? What's the most exciting part? Except for all of us seeing each other in person and all that. Forget all that cheesy stuff. But
Yeah, like location wise, I think obviously Galloping Ghost is going to be a highlight. Just that number of arcades that are there. And I didn't realize that how big the place is, that they have two separate locations for their pinball site plus their arcade site. So when I saw that, I was like, we could pretty much spend a whole day there going to both of those because there's separate entry fees to both of them. So essentially, Friday is going to be our day to be there the whole day. That's the plan, to be on that south area of Chicago, because if you think about where IR Arcade is, they're on the northern side. So we kind of have to split the trip up to be more efficient. OTG was saying it best. I don't like to waste time if we're going to travel here to there to do this. It's like, if we're going to be in that area, let's focus in. So that's going to be my biggest excited thing to check out.
yeah, do you have that? Let's see. I got the. Maybe. Do you have that map? I would love for you to share screen the
Yeah,
map of just like all the places that we have kind of bookmarked that we want to go. Because this is exciting, guys, right? Like those in the chat, if you can't make it, that's fine. But look at this as a way, if you're planning a trip, this is a cool way to do it. Like, just go into, you've taught me actually. My wife recently was really frustrated because I have 4 trips this year. And she's like, I need the flight information. I want to know all that information, all that stuff. And when you showed like, oh, I'm just using Google Trips, I'd never used Google Trips before. I threw everything into Google Trips and then sent her a link. And it's like literally the first time in my entire life I got a text message from my wife saying, everything you sent to me was perfect.
Yeah, nice.
She was like, I love you. It included every detail I was looking for.
Yeah, I have it put up now if you want to see it, but it's essentially you can save locations into a place, and I just called it Chicago Arcade-a-Palooza, right? And so if the two big things that are on here are way up top here is IR Arcade headquarters, and then down here is Galloping Ghost, and then this is Chicago on the mid side. So a lot of these are locations that we want to eat at. Michael B is really interested in White Castle and Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes.
And then there's a couple of different barcades that just look freaking awesome. Emporium, Logan Square. There's this place called Headcater's Beercade that has a freaking DeLorean inside of the wall. So I mean, like, these are just things that we're looking at and like, that looks cool. Replay Lincoln Park looks really cool. There's this place called Mission Control Bar. So I think on Saturday, before we make our way up, my idea is that we almost beer crawl into these different places, because if we spend all day down here, we could probably spend like an hour at each of these places and make our way up to Skokie. And so I think that would be really fun. And like, I know a couple folks brought cars, but let's Uber everywhere. Let's everybody make sure we have a drink at every location so everybody's safe. Get up there. But yeah, that's the trip. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Arcade-a-Palooza. Happy to share this out for folks that want to come out or that are interested in being in the area. But for most of us, I think Galloping Ghost Friday all day, unless there's something else, some other food places, and then beer crawl up to Skokie to Game and Brew.
Very cool. So that's the Saturday. That's the Saturday plan. And then Friday plan is that's almost all day at Galloping Ghost is the plan.
It's like 3 blocks away from each other. So, I mean, we'll have to, like there's Fine Thai and a taco stop and a Skilleria in between. So I'm sure we can find some place to eat in between. But it's a good 3 blocks to walk between these two places. Oh, and there's Imperial Oak Brewing. That sounds like a fun place to go to as well. So I'm pretty sure we'll find some things to do and just hang out in this area. It's so huge. I mean, what's the number of arcades that are at Galloping Ghost? Do you remember?
I think it's
the number?
400.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. This is our arcade heaven. I mean, I I wouldn't want to do anything else all day except for exploring, and maybe it'll get tiring and we need to sit down and find a place to eat after a while. And then we just dive right back in, right? Like I'm sure it'll be fun. Maybe we do some head-to-heads. I don't know if all of us are even gonna like walk around together. I feel like all of us will walk in and all of us will just like scatter. Like I don't know how much of us. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Although we probably should go in there and
the toilet is like, I don't know why there's a picture of the toilet there.
But if they have Blitz, NBA Jam, all these 3-4 players, we gotta make sure we get together for those.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of games that are fun to play by yourself, but like I went to an arcade with a couple content creators. This is like in 2019, I want to say, and the memories that I took from it was Blitz actually, and NBA Jam and Mortal Kombat. It was all co-op and competitive play that was the most enjoyable.
Yeah, and especially even with pinball too, because I know some folks are pinball fans. Like you can do 4-player pinball and take turns doing that too. So I mean, that's one of the best ways to play, and really kind of gets that competitive juices going when you can play against other people in there. So I think that would be fun to head over there. There's also we tried to get a tour at the Stern headquarters. But unfortunately, due to COVID right now in the pandemic, they weren't opening up to tours. But they said they would be open at a future date if people are in the area. Hit up Stern Pinball headquarters. They do tours, but just they happen to be closed at this point in time.
So here's the address to Raw Thrills if you want to type that in.
Oh yeah,
it's 5441 Fargo Avenue in Skokie.
All right, I just typed in Raw Thrills Chicago.
Okay.
So yeah.
Good enough.
There it is.
So where is that in comparison to all those other places that we're...
Well, let's save this to Chicago Arcade1up to add it to our spreadsheet of things. And so it ends up being, just south of where IRK headquarters is. So
okay.
Yeah, I think we could definitely hit them up. Let's send them an email and see if we can get ahead of time. Hit them up. Cool. I didn't know there's so many arcade headquarters in Chicago. Like Stern, Chicago Gaming Company, which also does the remakes of Medieval Madness. But yeah, cool. That's Raw Thrills right there. Let's check them out and see what else we can do.
Yeah, maybe we'll go there and they'll be like, hey, this is the next one we're working on.
Yeah, but Raw Thrills and all the modern stuff, I mean, a lot of their new stuff is like modern games that you would see like Dave and Buster's and things. Like when you go to arcades these days, do you still enjoy looking more for the vintage stuff, or are you still enjoying the modern version of arcades these days?
It's a little bit of both. So like I took my daughter to the arcade and we had a lot of fun playing the Raw Thrills Jurassic Park. So much so that my daughter, we were walking around somewhere else and she literally said, hey, look, they have the Raw Thrills Jurassic Park, like full sentence said. She threw in that distinction, and we had a lot of fun playing that. And so I can't say that we're shy of modern games, because, and then I think I've beat like the modern, what's that, Halo in the arcade. That was a lot of fun. It's a long game.
A lot of quarters, a lot of swiping.
We were at a place that took cards, but it had like a 1 hour of free time. I think we paid like $10 or something like that, and it was like the whole thing was free. So there was like 4 or 5 of us coworkers, and we just kept on scanning. And we got to a point where we were like, is this game ever going to end? It's like...
Yeah, it gets tiring. But like that was the mentality of I just went to Dave & Buster's with my kids for like their end of the year basketball party, and we loaded up a card with like I think it was $75 because that's the deal for the credits. And like they're not looking at the number of credits each time they're playing. They're just like swiping. And so I miss that money management side of things, to see how far you can get on a single credit. Really put effort into it versus just like free playing it. But I think Galloping Ghost is a free play model, so it's $25. Everything's free play. It's probably easier for them to not have to take tokens for each of their machines and do that, because that's a lot of work.
A lot of work at a certain point. And I heard that that's better for arcade dealers at this point. The swipe system or free play, right? But they're making a lot of money on the swipe system because they keep on changing like you can go into the system now, it's all like Wi-Fi enabled, right? So it all connects to a central system. So you can go in there and be like, a point is worth $1 or a point is worth 5 cents. Like you can change it up. You can have happy hours. You can do whatever you want.
Mhm.
And this guy was telling me they increased 40% in sales by switching to the card reader.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, because the mentality is gone of penny pinchy. You know, I don't want to pay $1 for an arcade game, but it's 5 credits, which equals $1.25 or something. No problem. That's
and he was
such a
saying
mental shift.
they never make a point at 25 cent. They make the math just. He said something like, if it's third grade math or higher, we make more money. Because like it's so easy to do calculations of like, oh, each point's 25 cents, so boom, you see it's $1.
Mhm.
But if it's something like where it's weird, where each point's worth like 40 cents or 33 cents, some crazy.
I've seen it. Dave and Buster's does like 3.85 credits to play this. Essentially now they're like doing decimals now, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? But I was really excited. Like I really like playing ticket games. It's like low key gambling. It's stakes, right? And my daughter won like that big wheel. She won the jackpot with 2,000 tickets. I don't know how, but I was like, wow, you must be really lucky. But I don't know how often. Like I would be playing a lot of those coin machines now. And so now what they do is they swipe it and then they give you credits to drop tokens or in the whatever those coin drop machines are. But yeah, I'm a gambler, so coin tickets and things. That's the way I grew up.
So on the call we had last night, I think it was after you dropped, we're talking about the dilemma of pinball, which it sounds like you pulled the trigger on. I'm not supposed to talk about it, but you pulled the trigger on Godzilla, right?
I did.
I'm sitting here staring at from Flip Out Pinball.
Flipping out, yeah.
Flipping Out Pinball. It's a lot of money, but like I'm creating my own FOMO, because if you go, first of all, these are not available.
Correct.
If you order it, it's a pre-order for the 2023 run.
Mm-hmm.
And this company is an interesting one, right? Because you have to pay it all right now, but it's coming from Vegas, free shipping, but then you don't have to pay tax, right?
Yeah.
It's
all inclusive. Mm-hmm.
So, but if you order it from like a different retailer, you wouldn't have to pay until they ship it, but you're probably going to have to be responsible for paying that tax to the retailer. So I thought last night on the call that it was no longer available, because everywhere I went, it said sold out, sold out, sold out, sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Until I was like, no, Flipping Out Pinball, and they still have it. I don't know if I can do it. I'm like, I don't. Paul says, wait for Jaws. Is Jaws the next one coming out?
They're supposed to be announcing another new Stern Pinball sometime this month. So September, they used to do like I think 3 or 4 new releases per year. So the last one was Rush. The previous one before that was Godzilla. I think they moved to twice a year now. So this year earlier was Rush. They might do a new one sometime. But did it already announce as Jaws being the new one? I don't know. Or they already said it was Ozzy. I thought it was Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy from
Osbourne.
Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, they announced an Ozzy pinball machine at Comic-Con, but they didn't have any new ones yet.
I see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, but Jurassic Park, I've been playing it. I've been going to the local arcade, and
so you enjoyed it. You've played it.
I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah,
I played it a lot. There was a 5 weeks there where every Saturday I went and played.
Yeah. Have you played a Godzilla Premium yet, though?
Yes.
Yeah, and you still like Jurassic Park better?
I like Jurassic Park better.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how much. Like before Godzilla was out, Jurassic Park was definitely. It has a lot of fun shots. I think when you're playing pinball and you can find a shot, they're like, oh, that's actually really fun, and you can kind of get into it. Jurassic Park is really in depth with that. But yeah, that was Godzilla for me when I got hooked into it.
Well, let me double check, because maybe I didn't play the premium Godzilla. So give me 1 second. So what do? You go into Stern, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the Stern website, you can look for games. Is that right? No, where's it at? Not shop. It's like you find... No. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Stern Pinball Locator, which is really cool. You put in your zip code, right?
Yeah.
And then you can do a search, and then it's going to show all of the the places. So where I went was the old school. No, I've been there. This is where I get where I play Jurassic Park a lot. And Up Down I need to go to. Everyone says it's great. Okay, the operating room is where I went. So games list, Godzilla Pro. It was the Pro.
Okay. So maybe you'll try it out and see it. They really are different games. It's really crazy. That one out, huh? Just to try it. I mean, it's very, very similar, but but if you already have it in mind, because I do really like the IP for Jurassic Park.
I really do.
Yeah, that's part of it. I think when I was gonna have one pin in my house, because I already have one, I was like, Star Wars is so huge. I didn't care about the pinball game. I wasn't as into it yet. And then I ended up buying it, investing a good amount before the price increases. But now that I love pinball more, it's not even, I don't even think it's like a top 50 pinball table. And it's for a reason that the open play field and the shots is just a lot of ramp shots. And like I was mentioning, it's not as fun to play as other games that are more in depth. So I thought IP was really important, but it does, I feel like it's like a 50-50. You got to love the IP. And then if the table is good, then it's like that great balance of like, I'm going to love this machine, plus it's fun to play.
Right. Yeah, I think more and more I played it, I kept on asking myself why I was drawn to it. I'm like, I don't even really like Jurassic Park, but I do this so much where I make assumptions about what I do and do like. Maybe this is just me being weird. It's the thing where I tell everyone that Super Nintendo is my favorite console, and I do have memories of it coming out, and it was great. But like, if I take a list of all my favorite games of all time, they're all on the Nintendo, right? So I'm like, do I really like the Super Nintendo more than Nintendo when all the games that I love are on the Nintendo?
Yeah.
So then it's like with Jurassic Park, I thought I did get to play Back to the Future recently when I was at in Connecticut, and Back to the Future was really, really cool. But is the Data East. It's an older one, and I mean, if they came out with a Back to the Future now, like maybe I would consider that instead of the Jurassic Park. But then I started thinking about Jurassic Park, and like, it's a great title. I remember seeing it at the theater. I saw it technically more times than Back to the Future at the theater. I was like 5 when Back to the Future came out, and Jurassic Park came out. There was a theater, and it was super cheap. It was like $2 tickets. We went 14 times that summer. I saw Jurassic Park over and over and over again. It was so much fun to watch.
It's a top 5 pinball game, so you can't go wrong. So not only is it a strong IP, but it was at one point considered #1. And then, some of the older classics kind of continue to stay up there. Medieval Madness is one of the ones that stays up there as one of the top ones of all time. But yeah, Godzilla, I think I like the pinball more than the IP, but it's not that I don't like Godzilla as a brand, right? I remember watching some of them, but it's a really, just as a pure pinball fan. The good thing about flipping out too, they said that the popular machines, they're gonna continue to make them. So like things like Jurassic Park, and even though it's been out for a few years, that's why it's not sold out there, because they're gonna be putting allotments out there to continue making them.
Okay, so I can wait then. I'm not gonna miss out.
Sort of.
Is it possible I'm gonna miss out?
I don't know. The FOMO could be there. I was like, I'm just gonna do it because it's gonna be like, I don't even know if it's a year-long wait. I was like, I just did it. I pulled the trigger. I don't know. It's up to you. It's all you.
All right. Well, let's wrap up the show. Really appreciate you coming on. Once you shout yourself out, is that a thing? Tell us about. Tell everyone how you can, how they could find you.
I actually want to give my shout out to somebody else. I had a great time today playing on the Moat Plays channel. He did a Marvel vs. Capcom tournament today that I won second place ever and placed in a tournament. And he's doing a Marvel Superheroes tournament on October 2nd. So definitely check it out if you like playing some fighting games. Definitely check out Mike of All Trades and Moat Plays. This is his other channel that he does called Gameplay. But he's hosting events. Fighters Evo is hosting, I believe, another Kumite event for Super Street Fighter Turbo. And so I think these are just fun ways if you own these Arcade1ups. You want, it's very casual, folks that are playing, and it's fun. So I just wanted to give him a quick shout out because there's folks like him, UAG, OTG that are just hosting events to play together. And just like us going to Chicago, when we play games together, it makes this hobby more fun. So I wanted to give him a quick shout out.
Very, very true. So let me do my own shout out. So if you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, you have a chance to win the unreleased Street Fighter 2 Arcade1up Pro. It's going to look exactly like what you see on the screen, and you have an opportunity to win it. It's a hidden giveaway that I'm doing. I'm only talking about if you're inside the stream, deep in the stream. I'm not going to blast it everywhere. So people that are watching, all you got to do is hit the subscribe button. There's a link in the description. You click that link and you can enter to win when it comes out. When it comes out, someone's going to get it for free. All right. So that's, thank you so much, B, for coming to hang out with me and
absolutely
keeping everyone.
We'll see you soon. We'll see you soon.
See you guys. I don't know. Both of us, you think we'll be lack of content next week? Are you still going to do your show on Thursday?
I don't know. Maybe, well, because you and I will be there a little bit earlier than folks. So maybe we can do like a pre-stream or something. Because cool. It'll be a while before everybody gets there. So yeah, maybe you'll see us Thursday night. Me and Justin will be there first on-site location. We can do like do you ever watch Real World back in the day? Where like you go in and be like, oh here's the rooms, or something would be like, oh, here's the place we're staying at. I'm calling that bed. And then like, you know, we can do like the real world. And we got to make a confessions room where, you know, we just make content where we talk about each other in like a silent confessions room.
Like, oh man, just Michael B. Fun. He's just so smelly in person.
It'll be fun. All right, man. Thanks.
All right, guys. See you guys. Take care.
Bye.